Morning, everyone. So I actually recorded a video yesterday about orcs, and then I ended up not posting it because I felt like it kind of rambled and didn't really go where I wanted it to go. So this is like take two with maybe better direction or commentary. So, I did my video review of what the changes to the orc book kind of did for orcs, which the general premise was not a whole hell of a lot, at least directly. I think a lot of the changes around orcs will kind of influence the meta of orcs. And then I started thinking about more orc stuff, and I was reading the forums, and there's some cool ideas there. And, I wanted to just talk about some things I've been thinking about with orcs. I've been trying to modify my list, and so I'm one that I tend to have a list, right? A style that I like and I get better at. And then I make small tweaks as I go. Maybe you learn something about the list you like or don't like, and you realize, I've been taking X unit. Do I really need to? And you're really trying to fine tune not only your list but your play style. And I think orcs have vastly different play styles depending on the list. And there's parts of me or people around me that want me to try some vastly different things, and I kind of want to incorporate them a little bit, but at the same time, if it's not my style and I don't really like playing that way, it's almost like, what's the point sometimes, right? Because you can keep going in circles and circles, I'll give you a perfect example. War machines and orcs. Some people love them. Some people hate them. Some people, want to sit back and do some range damage or just maybe take pot shots with skewers, which is not bad. Skewers are kind of in the middle, from my opinion. And some people want the Git launchers. And then you hear stories of like, my Git launcher rolled a bunch of ones, and I just missed and misfired and didn't do anything, right? You roll, depending on if you take a bully or not, which is 205 points for that model. Or maybe it's 215? 205. It's something. It's whatever. It's enough. And you're like, I misfired on one, and then I can't shoot anymore. And it's just like, I paid 205 points. It's gone, right? It's just gone for the rest of the game. And sometimes it does really well. It all hits, and you kill some things. I'm not a huge fan of shooting myself, mainly because it's not reliable, and I want to spend the points elsewhere. I don't think orc shooting is bad. In fact, I hate playing against orc shooting. I actually think it's annoying because when you play against shooting, it's always the potential. What could it do to you? And sometimes it does nothing. So I probably won't ever, well, not never, quote unquote, I probably won't go down the shooting route, even though that's a valid style. So to me, it's just something I'm never probably going to do, or at least not anytime soon. What I do like is a more aggressive approach, though I've been lately having to, I can be aggressive without being overly aggressive, like, what's the word? Not like Warriors of the Gods aggressive, where you control the game and you kind of got to accept sometimes that you're not going to get the 20s. You're not going to be able to push against in some matchups for these huge wins. And that's okay. I think that's hard for me. It's hard for me to go into games and be like, I can't, go get the 20. And I don't think Warriors did it a little better, but not in the same. It's still, you could just lose, right? Your models could die and you could just lose the game. Especially as armies become more equal, I think you got to remember with Warhammer that, I don't know, you just can't play that style. And you're going to get into matchups where it's like, no matter what you do, if the opponent doesn't want to play, you don't get to play as much. And it sucks. It sucks, but, if you can get the 13 or 14, get the scenario and get the 14 points, just take it. You know what I mean? So I do have to think about that. With that being said, this was the list I was running for a while. Let's bring it up on New Recruit. I don't actually have it on New Recruit. This is like the new version of it. So I want to talk about some things I'm interested in trying that still go well with this army, at least this style, and tell you about some things that could develop and some issues I've been seeing. So, my style has been Super Fighty Lord, very minimal magic, just one caster. I do like the Spider Hero a lot. I've been loving the 18-inch BSB. I don't actually use the Vanguard aspect as much, though the threat is always nice. People are very scared of vanguarding fanatics, and they should be. in a sense. And I've had a big unit before with nets, so it's actually kind of hard to break through. So this was my list before, which is very similar to the list that you see here. I think the only thing different is I made the big goblins smaller to 30. I made this a 8-man unit of spiders, so it would be in core, and my lord became an iron orc without omen. So let's talk about that. So those are the pieces that change in the current version, and I'll give you kind of my reasoning. And then I added, because I brought this into core, I got some points left, and I added a witch doctor on a wolf that's an apprentice of witchcraft. So let's talk about those changes and why I made them a little bit. So first off, let's talk about this big unit. So 3 Fanatics is great. It's fun. 2 Fanatics is about as good. Obviously, it's not as good, but it's about as good. It's scary enough to throw 3, let alone 2, let alone 3. It is, how many points less? I think that one's 560. It's 165 points less. Because the goblins cost like 7 each, 15, yeah, 105 points. Yeah, makes perfect sense. 30 pretty much does the same job as 45 as far as holding units up for any reasonable amount of time. Throwing 2 Fanatics is pretty good. It also feels less bad when they die. 45-man unit dying, it's great to run up and throw Fanatics and maybe kill something, but that unit's 560 points. If it dies, it's a lot of points to die. So it kind of starts to breach the not willing to sacrifice range. So I'm thinking maybe 2 times 30 is more of a range that's appropriate for that. That being said, we can get into how, scoring can be an issue. So scoring with this army, I only have 3 scoring, and 2 of them throw Fanatics. So, if you want to talk about running up Fanatics, throwing them, and having your unit die, that actually isn't the best move because you need that for scoring. What is kind of interesting, though, I'll talk about that afterwards. So I'm saying, okay, I don't need these 15 guys. This unit's fine. And then what can I get for that? Well, I can move my chaff to core. So there's nothing wrong with 5 wolves. If anything's wrong with 5 wolves is that I've been playing them pretty awfully. I either keep them too far away from my general thinking, they're going to be fine. And then they get like 1 magic missile and panic. Or I've just had them like die the turn before they need them. So what does 8-man spiders versus wolves do? 1, 8-man's a little hard to kill in 1 spell. And you still have to kill 2 to panic. So, that's not going to help me. Spiders versus wolves. Not a huge deal, though scouting I think is actually kind of... Scouting and Strider is pretty good. Because one thing I've found is that I've had trouble deploying them near my lines. I don't want to put them behind my army sometimes, and I don't want to put them, because of my leadership and how, not exact, I don't want to act like this is the hardest thing in the world, but just kind of how my army deploys, I typically don't have the space maybe to go 1 wide, but 2 wide still takes up extra 4 inches of space. Is it 4 extra unit would be, they still have to be an inch away, so 3 inches because it's a 1-inch gap on one side and then 2 models. So that's 3 inches of space and leadership bubble that I'm missing out on potentially. And at least with scouting, I can wait to see where the enemy goes, and they can be kind of annoying turn 1. An 8-man unit can kind of run in front of the enemy turn 1, which is really nice. The wolves can too, but spiders do it the same. And actually being able to go and cover and stuff is really nice, and being able to march out of woods and stuff. And they have thrown weapons, I think, in this one, so whatever, 16 strength shots. It's just because I had the points. And it's honestly, the wolves, it's 36 more points than the wolves, but it goes in the core. So that's pretty nice. So basically this whole entire thing just shifted in the core. And so what I do is I gain their points in something else. Special or hero slots. I think it was special in this case. So, or heroes in this case. Okay, so that's something. And now we're talking about my Feral Orc Warlord. So this guy, I love him. I love the Omen. It's a boss weapon. You go in with 4. You have minimum of 5 strength, 5 base, 6 base strength, 7, 5 strength, 7 minimum on the charge. Potentially more. You have battle focus. You're toughness 6, which is whatever. The problem is this army needs his leadership. I have 2 units that are sometimes trying to be steadfast, and I have trolls. If he is dead, the trolls become pretty much useless, and these guys, if they're holding up, if they're trying to be steadfast, him being dead, it automatically turns that around, and it sucks. With that being said, he dies a lot because I'm a little risky with him. It's my fault. I take the risk. I know it's happening. Don't worry. It's not like... But there's also the risk of he's just frenzied. Like, honestly, if you were playing against me and playing against my list, if you can frenzy bait my general, it's like... It's way worse for me than people think. Like, there are times where I think people don't realize how badly I need my general in this army, to where I feel like... I'll give you an example. Or something, and I don't want to give away secrets to beating me, but, you know, if you force me, let's say you're really scared of my Omen charging somebody. If you can do it smartly, and I'm not saying you're going to be allowed to smart me, if you can do it in a way where if I charge you and kill your, like, huge model, that, like, I'm either prone to dying or I'm away from my army, that's a big issue for me, and I might not even charge you. Like, I might not even take that charge. Like, people who, like, put models like 18 inches from my Omen thinking, oh my god, he might roll the 10 and charge. I'm like, if I roll the 10 and like run away from my army, I could just lose my army. Now, if my rest of my army can walk with him, it's fine. That being said, the gist is, if he dies, it's really bad for me. Especially if he dies early on. So, you know, I've been trying to get away from, you know, I took Frenzy off of this unit because I wanted the 2-up save because it kept getting shot up. And so part of me wants to make him a black orc or an iron orc. And so you can see in this version he's an iron orc with paired weapons, shady shank, and plate armor, death cheer. So currently he's resilience 6, 3-up, 5-up, and immune to lethal, which we'll say it's fine. Sure, it's whatever. Yeah, he still wounds him, and then it's still not good because some lethals are strength 3, but he doesn't have the best save. So the iron orc is 1-up, 4-up, T5. Which is fine because I haven't done the math on it yet. So he's worse against lethals, clearly, because he has no save at all versus lethal strike. So that's annoying, I'll say that for sure. And that's why I'm testing it. But 2, 1-up, 4-up is a lot safer versus most things, if not everything. I actually don't know what's better. Strength 4... I mean, Strength 4 and 5 are probably the question. I mean, Dean, how much does Toughness 6 matter? Anyway, I think 1-up, 4-up is always going to be better than 3-up, 5-up, even with Resilience 6. And he's not frenzied. That's another big thing. But also, he kind of pairs a little bit better with some of the... as far as resilience goes, we're not going to talk about damage output yet. You know, I have 2 units of nets, and I have -1 strength from Smite. So, having a better armor pairs with that better... because every AP matters a little more, right? If you're strength 6 against my big guy, being AP 2 doesn't really... I mean, I get a 5-up versus... You know what I mean? Being a 5-up versus 6-up is not much difference, but like reducing AP on a 1-up save guy just feels a lot better. So he's safer. He's safer, and I don't have to frenzy him out. That's probably the bigger reason. Because ideally, there's a build where he can take Omen in a 1-up rerollable save, which is a really nice... I mean, it's bad against snipes, but whatever. There's an Omen build where he has a 1-up rerollable save, but it's 45 points more than this one. And it's hard to get those points in this army currently. I think there's... And he has the reroll... I'll say a big problem, quote-unquote problem, is the Goblin King takes away that build from him. And then if you drop that rerollable save from the Goblin King... what's the point of having the other one? So there is kind of this misbalance of like, what do you do? There is something to be said where you could drop the Goblin King, the Witch Doctor, and one of these items like the Scepter, and you can go second Warlord, so you can have the frenzied version guy. Well, then you could have 2 Iron Orcs if you want. I don't know. He's not as fighty, straight up. But as I told you, he doesn't want to be charging out that much. So the Iron Orc has 5 strength 6 with lightning reflexes and lethal strikes. He's strength 6 only in the first round. But then he gets rerolled to wound in challenges, so 1-up save characters aren't good versus him because he has lethal strike to roll a wound. Like I said, I love the Omen guy, and I'll see how I miss him. But a lot of times he was trying to save me, or him charging out was causing more issues than like having the Omen was being worth. Does that make sense? Maybe that makes sense. So we'll see. I'm going to try that. So those are my changes. Oh, and I added this. So, a thought process was I don't have a lot of chaff. I only have one chaff piece in the normal list. And it's susceptible to just dying. It's the best thing to magic missile in my army, like fireballs and stuff. It's clearly the best thing to fireball. And when it dies, it causes me leadership issues potentially. And so I thought, okay, it's 125 points for an extra chaff. 130 if you take shields for the wolf ones. And you can go 115 if you go it's 115 for the spiders. But for 140, you get a goblin, witch doctor, and a wolf. Okay, so what's the downside and the upside? The downside is less wounds. It's less wounds, and it doesn't cover as much space. A single model can only cover so much space versus a 5-man wolf unit. But what's nice about it is that it can hide. And so I have the one unit. If you're going aggressive turn 1, like you're going to run and pin. You're going to redirect people turn 1. The wolves are better because they're bigger. They take up more room. They're just better at it. But if you're going to and so that's why I still take a spider unit. If I want to chaff turn 1, I can, and I'm going first. I can wait till the enemy deploys, this is what's really nice. I can wait till the enemy deploys, scout in front of them, march 8 inches, or vanguard. I can scout, vanguard, and then get in an 8-inch. There's nothing they can do. Unless they counter vanguard me. So what's nice about this character is usually this Iron Orc, this Boar Boy unit's a bunker for my general. Plain and simple. He stays in it a lot. He creates a nice unit, and now that I can't frenzy out of it, it's pretty nice. I can panic, sure, but you gotta just accept that you gotta take the checks. And not too many things around him cause panic. It's not like the goblins cause panic. And so now I get something where I can put in this wolf guy. He fits in the unit. He doesn't fuck it up. I think he might mess up their ranks because he's light troops. How does that work? I'm not actually sure how that works. That being said, it doesn't really matter. The point of him is he's here. He's safe from fireballs, because you have to magic missile my entire unit. And the turn I need chaff, extra chaff, I just run out and then chaff you, right? So it's kind of like that backup chaff. But the other nice part about him is he's a wizard of death. He's a wizard apprentice, and he comes with witchcraft, which is a very nice spell for my army. Because Raven's Wing is pretty sweet when you have fanatic units and when you have single models like idols and stuff, or even trolls. If my trolls, it's Raven's Wing is a game-winning 5-dice spell sometimes, and whether it's for scenarios or whether it's for just putting a unit in a really shitty spot for the enemy. So having that on a 140-point guy that I don't give a fuck if he fails, like if he blows up, heroes 666, I'm like, okay, he dies. He was a chaff piece anyway, right? He's not my big guy. So it kind of gives me that early on spell of imagine my first turn being Comet and then a Raven's Wing. That's actually two. Right now, my first turn is Hand to Heaven, maybe a Comet, maybe Smites, maybe a Breath Weapon depending on where my Spider Hero gets to. And that's fine. It can be really good. But if my first turn is Raven's Wing and Comet, and the Raven's Wing is good, maybe I've Relentless Bannered up these guys and I'm going to... Because, what you can do, we can start doing now is, if you put goblins in front of people, you can throw your fanatics and they can be super annoying, and, maybe you throw them so they're just in front of the enemy and then they charge you and blah, 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 blah. But if they have an opening and you can, Raven's Wing your fanatics like this, and either throw it down the line, or let's just pretend this is them. This is the enemy, right? And you somehow get next to them. So one, they can't charge you, which already sucks for them because you're like this. But what you can do now is, which is the stupid thing is, you can go, I'm going to throw the fanatics through you and in front of you. So not only do you take the first set of hits, but you can't move forward because they're now in front of you. You just throw it at an angle like this. Or, you know, if they have multiple units like this, you can be super annoying. Let's say this is the enemy battle line, right? You could either be annoying and throw it straight across, or you can just be annoying and throw it like, let me actually get the lines up. There we go. You could throw it like this. And if you threw it like this, you would need a 6 to hit this unit. Not only that, but you would come out like here. So you would hit these 2 units, and then you'd land in front of their other unit. So that being said, Raven's Wing is just a really good spell, right? And even if you get it off and do the attribute's pretty nice turn 1. You can make something faster, make something slower. And if you're not, you're throwing comets down, right? And so I took out the Binding Scroll. I have Scepter of Power. Do I think Binding Scroll is better? Yes. But I don't have 15 points to drop in this. Like, literally, I'd have to drop an entire Mounted Ed Basher. There is nothing else in this list that I can drop that I feel comfortable dropping for 10 points. I need 4 more points. I would drop the standard here. Yeah, it sucks in that case. That being said, that's what I want to try. Little safer hero. And I really think the Goblin hero has potential. The Goblin Apprentice. I think the spell is really good. If he stays alive the whole game, perfect. I mean, I was playing with 1 chaff piece anyway. There are games where my Fanatics don't do anything. Like, they stay back and people are just scared of them. So as far as, like, effectiveness goes, it's not like the 3rd Fanatic or the extra 15 Goblins were ever game-breaking for me. So I'm basically trading that for a game-breaking spell and a safe chaff piece that can maybe run out and do stuff. So let's talk a little more about this army since I'm already on the path of, like, I'm excited to play this. I'm playing it today versus Travis in person. So, you know, I've been building this list and making modifications and really enjoying it. So, and one reason I like to stick with the same style is because you get better with that style. You get better with the list. And I think this type of list, there's a lot of things to get better at, right? It's not... There's a lot of tricks. There's a lot of things you can do. And I don't even like to call it tricks. I mean, people look at this list sometimes and say, and I've had somebody say this to me, they're like, do you think, and I don't even know if they watch my videos, but do you think that when people learn how to play against your tricks with, like, the Vanguarding Fanatics, that, you know, it's going to lose more? And I'm like, people know about that trick. I rarely, except for Justin, I rarely run my unit turn 1 and throw Fanatics at people, and it's, like, amazing. The Fanatics are like a deterrent. They scare people. They scare people. They make them play defensive. They make my army very hard to push into, and sometimes you get to do a cool trick with them. But holding Fanatics for a long time is usually scarier for the enemy than me running them at. I mean, people will definitely be scared of them. And if you give me a great opportunity, like if you leave your level 4 out and I can run and throw 2 Fanatics into them, I'll throw them. Right? But it's not like that's the only use of them. They're just very annoying to deal with. So I don't think that's fair. And I take the item because I have a Vanguarding Spider potentially, and because I get 18-inch BSB, which I've talked about a lot, which I really like. But I think some things I don't do enough, for example, would be a move like this. When I do my Fanatic moves, I like my Fanatics to fucking land and go through people. But I could easily do something like move up, right? Move up, throw Fanatics maybe in front of an enemy unit. Let's just pretend this is the enemy unit. Throw Fanatics in front of them, and then set myself up in a way that, 1, if they charge me, they're running through Fanatics. But 2, just like set up to flee. Or, you know, depending on the scenario, using a Goblin unit, especially one that's not fucking 500, 600 points, to say, all right, if you go after this unit, I'm going to have counter charges, whether it's, you know, something like this, or, you know, my Warpath, you know, I'm going to have units to come and help. And one thing I need to be a little more willing to do with my Goblin, it's flee. If I can flee into my general's range and rally, I not only save my 400 points, I get my Fanatics out and I save my points. But if I need scenarios, I still have time to do it. I guess I'm not used to fleeing as much because I play warriors and like a lot of their units. I mean, like, yeah, sure, less units can flee and stuff, but it's just like this whole idea of in Warhammer, I don't think people trade enough units, and I don't think people trade it. People are so scared to get anything charged, right? But if you really think about a situation and say, I'm going to put my fanatics right in front of you, my unit, not even fuck the fanatics, I'm going to put my unit right in front of you and block 2 of your units, per se. Almost like what the spiders do, right? And now they're sitting there. And you have to decide, are you going to charge them or not? But if you charge them, and depending on where the rest of my army is, I'm steadfast 5. I could be steadfast 9. This is kind of actually the cute, nice thing about goblins is, especially night goblins. They're only leadership 5. So if you're fear, I'm leadership 4. But I can either just flee the charge and say, okay, I'll flee and then hopefully rally behind. Nothing in the back of my army panics from this unit. Only my chaff and this hero and the other unit. Nothing else takes panics from this unit. So that's nice. I can flee basically for free, and I have discipline on this unit, so it doesn't matter. So as long as I set it up properly. Sometimes I don't set it up properly to where I can flee back behind my army. Or you can just flee. I think another thing people do enough is you sack a unit, you flee, and you just die in front of your army, right? If you charge this with a big, juicy unit, right? And let's say these units aren't in range. And you're like, I'm going to charge you with my bus. No, and you're like, oh, I'm going to, kill you here, and then I'm going to reform, and then take all these charges. They're all super far. And I just say, I'm going to flee, and I flee to, here, and then you kill me here, and then everything is, right in front of you. That's something that isn't done enough, or, so stuff like that. So I think trading units, and, I was going with the leadership thing. One thing that's nice is you can put them in front of somebody, and depending on what charges you, you can make the decision of, do I want to be steadfast 9 with reroll because my general's nearby, or do I want to just take a 6 leadership and hope I fail, a 5 leadership, and hope I fail, and then it clears the path, right? Because sometimes staying is bad, depending on what's there. Because if you're going to die in the next turn, if you're going to die in your own turn and you don't have a great countercharge lined up, then I'll give you a situation where I did it real quickly. Just real quickly. So I had my big unit fighting this, and he put a spear unit in front of me, and I had an idol back here. I could see. It could see this unit. And I think he had a character in the flank. So pretend this is a griffin, right? He had a griffin in the flank. His high elves. And what ended up happening was he charged me, and I took the challenge with the spider hero. I shouldn't have been in this situation because I should have not put the spider hero in there. But so this is where, if you think about read forms, it's really important thing to think about. So, 1, why did I take the challenge with the spider hero? I didn't have a champ. I could have just declined it and been steadfast and survived over here. Well, 1 is, if my spider hero dies, he goes away, which now opens up this corner for my Great Green Idol. And he had a unit that rallied here, so I was looking at it, and I was like, well, he can't reform to this side and block it, because he can't get far enough over to do that. If this guy wasn't here, he could just reform like this, and I'd be fucked, right? But there was a model here that rallied, so he couldn't move it. So if my spider dies, my thought process was, if my spider dies, I can make the steadfast check and then try to bring in my idol and hope that helps. I don't know if it actually would have because of the griffin in the flank, and I think he had regen on himself. But the other process. But what happened was he didn't die, and now I have it, and I lost a bunch of goblins. So now I had to make the decision of, I was like, all right, I'll just take my steadfast 4 because he had fear, and flee because I think it was he was down here a little more, and there was a big impassable, so the griffin couldn't go anywhere. Because if I flee and you flee this way, I'm going to countercharge you with I had trolls here. Trolls, and if you flee this way, you're going to get flanked by the trolls and stuff. He ended up making it go to the left, and he fled and rallied, but it got him out of the game for a while. But I guess what I'm saying is, that was more of a tactics thing and less of an orcs and goblins thing. But I'm just saying that if you sometimes you have to create action. And sometimes putting a ranked unit or a unit that's a little juicy in front of somebody, there's a lot of action that comes out of this unit. It can potentially be steadfast, and you can make the choice. You can potentially be steadfast, but choose not to take your leadership, so you have a really good chance to fail because you're only base 5. You can flee it and not cause panic to your army. You can flee it and die in front of your army and say, all right, I die in front of my army, boom. And sometimes, so I like to vanguard 1 inch in front of people, but that's probably not always the right thing to do, because if you, like I said, throwing fanatics through people is annoying. Throwing fanatics in front of people to where they like have to land on it to move, if you really think about it and say, if they don't move, how are they feeling? Right? Because there's a chance that you throw fanatics in such a way that they land in front of 2 units, the only 2 units that could charge you. And if there's only 2 units that can charge you, and you throw fanatics in front of them, then it's a double whammy. 1, they can't get rid of you unless they charge through the fanatics. And if they do charge through the fanatics, they're going to get hit and maybe you flee. So like it can be a really bad situation. And I need to take advantage of that and use that more. I feel like I'm too nervous or scared to do that, especially considering the unit can flee. Even when I had the big one. Like you can just put it in front of them and then flee through your own army and just rally behind you. So what? You did your job, and if it sets you up for, you know, the rest of your army to do some work, it definitely has uses. So that's something I want to do more. And then honestly, having 2 fanatics and a smaller unit probably does the same as the big one. It's not as annoying if it dies. It's still good for scenarios and like flags and, you know, hold the center. They're still like annoying enough where you kind of hold it back. And that's just the style of this army. Yeah. Trolls are still there. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I've been playing this army for a while. So point being is I want to take an apprentice of witchcraft and see how that works as a chaff / a good spell to have early on in late game. So if it survives the whole game, it survives the whole game, and maybe it opens up scenario stuff too. And turn 1 plays with like, and you can 5 dice it and not give a fuck at all. And Scepter of Power is actually really nice for Comet, because now you can 3 dice it and then add 1 if you need to. You can safely do 3 dice Comets a little more. And depending on Ravenswing, like if you really want to Ravenswing something, start the fucking phase with like a 3 dice Comet, and then maybe make it a 4. And now they have to choose: do they want to risk the Ravenswing going off, or do they want to risk the Comet going off? And that's a pretty big decision. So I'm actually very excited about this change. Okay, 30 minutes in. Haven't talked about the other new stuff I've been thinking about, except for the apprentice guy. So when playing this style, so I told you that leadership was a big issue with this army, so you kind of base it around the fact that you want leadership 9, and this is kind of building orcs, not 101, but when I think of orcs, I think of I really want leadership 9. I don't want leadership 8. It's really low. It sucks to have steadfast 7s if they cause fear. The trolls, it just all the math says you probably want leadership 9. So what's the only way to get leadership 9 in orcs? Well, there's not only way. You can go Goblin King with Crown. You can do double Crown and be 18-inch range. That's one I don't play, but it's like 300 points. It's okay. It's not the worst use of 300 points. You can do Warlord, which is what I do, or you can do Orc Shaman with Autocracy. So if you go Autocracy, obviously you're worth 200 more points. If it's on your general, you know, if that's your general, he's a 900-point model. And then you start getting into the issues of, like, if I wanted to switch and take a Crown of Autocracy Feral Orc or Orc, I can't put him in this unit. So this unit would have to become Orcs, and then it would be less mobile, and then is that okay? But then you're also saying, okay, you know, if I'm in a bunker, then I'm probably a little bit farther back, and so my 12 inches don't go as far. And you can, or you know, it kind of goes ripple effects down a path of, you know, if you take a Shaman General list. I'm not saying this is an amazing list either. It's just an example. You know, if you take a Shaman General, then, well, maybe you say, okay, well, I'm going to take a Feral Orc. I'm going to put him in Orcs and say, all right, maybe you have to be a little ballsy and say, all right, I'm going to put my fucking Feral Orc General in a unit of Feral Orcs. But now this unit of Feral Orcs is supposed to be big enough to defend itself, and you still have other pieces where it's not the main unit. you know, a shamanism guy is still tough to handle. You could go Thom and put him in a bunker and still have the same magic phase that I have currently, which is fine. He's a lot more points, though. I think this guy, I mean, this guy's 445. You can't even have both items. And, I mean, you're spending 65 points just on the upgrade, just on the crown. It just starts to get expensive. But then you can say, okay, well, I take an 18-inch Cavern King BSB. If you're going to put him in a Feral Orc unit, you can take a normal Feral Orc BSB, the build I had here. You know, I took 2 Legion Standards because I had a bunch of Orcs, but, you know, if you just put Essence of Mithril on him, and this list might want a great weapon on him, though it's not a big deal. You know, if you have this, then, you know, you don't need 18-inch BSB as much. You can't go as wide, but usually if you ever watch me play, this unit is like behind this unit or something like that. And so, you know, if this was a big feral unit, it's probably up 6 inches, but my BSB has less lateral move. So, like, I guess this is actually kind of an interesting way to put it, right? Imagine that my general is the BSB, and this model right here is my other BSB. If you go up, it goes to about this chariot. My general goes roughly to about that chariot, a little less. So you're losing some distance there because this unit isn't 6 inches wide. But what you're losing is, you know, this goes to here, so I can have a Goblin King there or an idol over here. And it's actually pretty important for march checks and for, you know, these guys don't need generals so much because they're leadership 8 and they get minimized in combat. What they need is BSB because a rerollable 8 is better than a non-rerollable 9. So like now I can stretch my leadership a little more while, you know, here, if this was my BSB, I lose a lot of left and right bubble. So it's not as good for sure. And I lose the Vanguard, which is a threat. It's just a trickle down effect, right? It's a big trickle down. But what does it do? This unit's useless. This is a bunker that holds 2 characters and it's not scoring, and which is fine that it's not scoring. I'm not complaining about that because I like the movement of it. And maybe one day I'll try the non-scoring version or the scoring version. But it keeps my character safe and they don't need to roll leadership. That's why I take this. It's 170 points. It's core. It's whatever. If it was scoring, it wouldn't even be that much better. If you take an Orc General with, like in this version, you can say, okay, I don't have a cheap crappy unit. Like, sure, this doesn't have Relentless. It's more of a defensive, like, I'm going to have 2 Fanatics just in case type unit. But it doesn't need to be protected from ambushers or flying monsters. There's some games where, like, if you have multiple flying monsters, I have to zone really well with my units because I can't have you getting to this unit in the back. So I kind of don't have to worry about that as much because my characters are in a 37-man Feral Orc unit, which can take some charges and fight its way out of things. So it's a lot more active core. And then you have scoring. I mean, Orcs, I think the biggest thing in Orcs is getting the scoring units you need, right? These Trolls could be Iron Orcs. I like Trolls more currently. Iron Orcs are an option. You can get like 18 Iron Orcs for this price, right? Let's look. Full command is so cheap now. So for that price, you can get like 17. Let's just put 18 down. So 18 is 407. So for 25 more points, you get 18 Iron Orcs. So it's the same amount of wounds. These have regen and minus 1 hit isn't that. They're just different units, right? For basically the same price. Trolls are faster too. But Iron Orcs are scoring. And that's a benefit in and of itself, right? And they don't need... I think I'll say one of the biggest pluses for Iron Orcs in this case is they're self-sufficient. They don't need my general. Honestly, if I didn't take Trolls, I could probably take the Feral Orc Warlord. But then, here's another combo question, right? If I took Iron Orcs, there's a reason to actually keep my Iron Orc General because he makes them stubborn. So there are games where I could just put my super tanky Lord in my unit of Iron Orcs and just have a stubborn unit I can walk up and annoy people with, unless you kill the 15, 18 guys. Where the hell are Iron Orcs? They're in here somewhere. Mounted Iron Orcs, yeah. Bodyguard, right? So I actually think that that's an interesting. This is an interesting change. I guess you go 17. Is this, which list is this? So let me just copy a list real quick. Copy this list. How would you do it? You would just cut this, right? You just cut that and take Iron Orcs special. 7 points over. I don't have 7 points, right? I can drop 10. I can drop this if I wanted. The standard's probably not useful. Like, you could go like this. Like, this is a solid unit, too. I mean, 17 Iron Orcs is... It's just different than Trolls, right? It's just different. It's stompable, which sucks. And it depends on the meta, too. Like, I know some people that hate Iron Orcs. A.K.A. Thomas. Who will probably watch this and be like, ah. But I don't need to listen to Thomas all the time. He doesn't know everything about orcs, right, Thomas? You're not even an orc player. But, you know, this versus this, about the same footprint. This is slower. I'll give it that. But, you know, I have Raven's Wing. I can move it up. I mean, this is if they don't have shooting to take out my Warlord, this unit's no joke, right? I don't even have to go 6 wide, but this unit being Raven's Wing like turn 1 into your face, now that's probably not the smartest thing, is no joke. Also, the only thing that needs his leadership really now is the 2 Goblin units, which 1 are smaller now, but 2, it's just not as big a deal as it was before. But now, tanky general, unit of stubborn, land in front of somebody. If they can't deal with Iron Orcs, then all right, here we go. Let's do it. I mean, just 17 Iron Orcs on its own with, I mean, the banner I think is super sweet now for 10 points because just every little combat res you can get on a unit like this is pretty big. You probably would go 5 wide just because 18 is also a nice number. Well, it doesn't matter. Well, it's nice because if one dies in the challenge, you still have 2 ranks and a banner, but that's here nor there. You're steadfast. I mean, your Immunopsych just like, oh, Trolls can flee. Trolls can flee. They're not fearless. Actually, yeah, they're fearless, right? What the fuck? Trolls have to be fearless. There's no way they panic. I was thinking they can flee from combat, but yeah, everything can flee. Yeah, everything can flee from combat. I don't know why I thought they couldn't. I mean, Troll Belch is really good, but I mean, Trolls are good versus Cowboys, but so is Strength 7 Iron Orcs. I mean, it's not much different to get Troll Belched on and Iron Orced. It's different because there's less attacks. I will give it that. You know, a Cowboy in this is probably only touching 6, and I have to hit still versus Trolls auto doing it. Well, a Cowboy only touches 4. So 4 Strength 5 auto versus 6, 3. Yeah, it's about the same, actually. The math is actually very close. Closer than I think I give it credit for, but, you know, these can also go 3-up save. I will say they're better versus Pyromancy. So if Pyromancy becomes a thing, like a very popular thing, I could see this change being very good. As I said, they don't need, the biggest thing is they don't need a general. So if my general dies or if I just need them, I'm almost convincing myself that this unit's better. This unit can't be stomped, but I legitimately think that this trade has a lot of potential. Like a lot of potential. Especially if I go the Iron Orc route. Because not only that do I get... And they can reform. It just... Trolls are annoying. I'm going to keep trying Trolls. I want to give them a chance. Because there are a lot of things they're good against. They're 4-up regen. You know, they're better against monsters because they can't be stomped. And they have regen. And they're distracting, which is annoying. They don't suffer some of the pitfalls of ranked units. But the combos that kind of come here where my Iron Orc General could go in this unit and it would be stubborn is pretty sweet. Not going to lie. Like, pretty fucking sweet. You're facing, you just become this kind, and you could, I mean, you can create a unit. I only have 2 characters that can go in this. I mean, you could put the Wolf in there, but, you know, this unit... If you go how wide? It's 17. 17 plus 6, 23. I mean, you can have like a 25 brick with like, you know, how big would it be? 25? It'd be like this. So 17, this, and this. And then you'd have to take, what, 1 out? 2 out. 17 plus 6 is 23. Yeah, there you go. Like that is not a unit you want Raven Winged into your face turn 1. If the BSB is nearby. That is a beefy boy unit with 2 very strong heroes in front of it that put out decent attacks. I mean, that's 5 strength 5 and 5 strength 6. Plus the unit, which automatically has like a bunch of either a 3-up save or paired weapons with strength 5, or yeah, it's a lot of attacks potentially. Or you can go wider. I mean, there's no reason you have to be in this formation. You're stubborn. You could go 8 wide and land in front of somebody and be like, all right, charge me with what you got. You better be able to kill me. It's not, this becomes not combat res. This becomes kill me. So, damn it. That's actually pretty sweet. Man. Oh, this list is pretty dope. I actually really like this list. I'm not going to lie. Oh, well, maybe I'll try this version too at some point. But yeah, it's all about tricks. And that's why I'm trying to keep like the same style is I want to learn how to do the tricks. So I think improvement. Oh yeah, sorry. Let me just talk about one character that I think is cool and people might want to try. I do think with the addition of Destiny's Call on... Somebody else brought this up on the forum, but I think Great Weapon's better. I think this guy is really nice for 220. So you're paying 220 points. You have a 4-up ward, 4-up armor, T4, 3 wounds. You have 6 strength 6 attacks, plus a strength 6 stomp, plus a strength 6 impact hits. You fly, you're hard target. It's just a unique model where, like, cannons aren't that good versus him. Like, so you can get a 1-up save Spider King for 250. I took him in some of my last videos. I took him out because I didn't think he was that good. This guy's very similar. I mean, he's worse leadership, but he's fearless, so that actually is a big deal because you don't have to take the terror checks, the fear checks, the panic checks. Break checks, sure, but if you're taking break checks, it's already... Like, this guy's job is not to do that. It's not the same. He's worse against lower strength, better against higher strength, but at the same time he's cheaper, and he puts out a lot more damage because he's strength 6, and his mount is fucking strength 6 and AP 3. So this guy flanks a unit of knights, and it's probably actually really bad for the knights because you're probably killing like 2 or 3, potentially. You might just break them. Your hard target, which is great. Light troops is fine. It doesn't really matter for him personally. He's just an annoying piece for 220. I really do like him, and I think he has potential to be in lists. I do need to try him at some point. I don't have the space in my list right now to really put him in. I don't know where he fits in or how he fits in to like a list like mine. I don't know what the best way to get him into a list is. But I would say the option is there for sure. And I did post kind of a troll comment, and people were liking it, but you could, okay, I'll tell you a version that I actually don't think is that amazing, but I'll tell you why I think it's funny, and it might have some uses. So I don't think that this version in and of itself is better, because you don't gain a lot to have. It's 50 points more to make him a hero, and I don't actually think you gain a ton from making him a king, because you gain an attack, a leadership, which doesn't matter, a weapon skill, which isn't that big a deal for like 50 points. And I don't think an attack, a strength 6 web skill 5 attack is worth 50 points. You don't gain any defensive stats. But what you do gain is the ability to take a bow with this. So for 325, you get this guy. And the bow is kind of sweet, right? So it's 3 shots at 24 inches. You can move and shoot. This model's light troops, unlike a spider, or a huntsman spider. So you can move and shoot, march and shoot. You hit on 2+ normally, so really 3+ at long range. And you're strength 4. So you get like 2 strength 4 hits on units on average. And so It doesn't sound that great, but like if you're dicking around, like you can like bounce around like fast cab and like ping at him, right? And just be annoying and be like, all right, it's 50 points to do. Think about like a dragon staff, right? A dragon staff is 2d6 strength 3 for. I mean, the dragon staff's probably better to be fair. I don't know. It's cute. I don't actually think it's that good. I don't. I don't like not go. Don't go out there and like pay 325 for this guy. He's the cost of a unit. But I think the 220 version is pretty good, for sure. I think the 220 version is pretty nice. Damn, I like this list. I like this little change here. It's pretty sweet, right? Now I have 4 scoring. I can sacrifice. The nice. So here's like, all right. Let me just go through the theory a little more about why this has potential over the trolls. One, they're basically this. It's a unit, right? It sounds stupid. They're both a unit. Yeah, duh. They're both a unit that kind of just does its thing. Okay, trolls can't be stomped. Have spits, which are really nice for some things. Probably more effective wounds being if they both. It's 17 wounds versus 18 wounds. One has a 3 up armor potentially versus 4 fortitude. The fortitude's probably better most of the time. The trolls are harder to kill, I'd say, in general. Comboing with cave goblins, probably the iron orcs are a little better because -1 strength and AP is better for the generally because of AP equals better armor save. Sorry. Attack wise, one has 18 strength 5 plus stomps, and one has less attacks. Well, that's debatable because one can go strength 7, and if you're wide enough, it's like 12 strength 7, which is better. And if you go paired weapons with 5 of them, it's 15, 16 with champ, strength 5, better weapon skill. So it's actually probably comparable fighting wise, depending on who charges. Well, yeah, it doesn't matter who charges. Iron orcs are actually faster on the charge. They're both 2, right? One's 2. What are the iron orcs? Iron orcs have parry versus distracting, so which is about the same because normally you're going to hit trolls. Trolls are AG1. Iron orcs are AG. What? 2. So iron orcs are slightly faster on the charge, but then go great ones for last. Iron orcs die faster. Trolls are faster. They're 7 swift stride when you need them versus 5. Iron orcs are immune to psych. Trolls are immune to psych. Iron orcs do not hate stupidity, so they're more reliable. Iron orcs can go on the flanks by themselves, which is a huge deal. It's a huge deal. Wait, and they're scoring. I can't. I'm having trouble defending the trolls. Honestly, I'm having trouble defending the trolls in this case. Like, you almost have to convince me of the trolls more than the iron orcs because. Oh, and in combos I can go with a stubborn unit. Oh, the fact that I don't need my fucking general is so nice. I mean, they're both good. Oh, it depends on the pyro world. I have no idea. Oh, and witchcraft is good for both. But witchcraft I can go out of my general's range with trolls, but I can't go. I mean, I could witchcraft a stubborn unit in front of somebody's face. I have no idea. All right, guys, I'm gonna end the video there because I've been rambling about this. But think about some of the things I said. This did not go where I thought it was gonna go, but I'm gonna actually post this one because why not? I did enough work talking about it. All right, thanks for listening.